Hey everyone, you are listening to the Umsl Student Radio. I don't know about y'all listening out there, but I have been in here jamming, like in a straight jam session. But anyway, I have a very important topic that I would like to speak on today, which has to do with, in some way, form, or shape, fashion, it affects all of us in some type of way. Without further ado, though, I'm going to go ahead and get right into it. I do have a guest speaker here in the studio with me, my esteemed guest, Bobby G. Stewart, who is here and who's going to talk about a couple things that have been going on in the news lately. I don't know who all keeps up with the news, but it's very important too. Even though I will say it's very important to watch the news, but at the same time, it's also very important to do your own research about what is shown on the news. Just because everything that you see in the media, just because it's in the media and it's given by all the top anchors like, what's his name? Anderson Cooper, people like him, doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. So I'm just going to put that out there because I have done my research about a few things, and also my guest has also, and come to find out they were not all what it was cracked up to be, when it was presented on TV. So without further ado, I do want to make that point. Make sure you do your own research, okay? Because the media and the government and all of them, they are only going to put what they want you to see on TV, okay? So there you go with that. So anyway, after I went ahead and made that point, I'm going to go ahead and get into the topic with my guest. So without further ado, he's going to give you his take on these few things that have been going on the news, and I'm going to let him get to it.
Hear me? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Thanks a lot. Well, first of all, I want to thank my esteemed host, DJ Nenner. And yesterday, I had watched on the news of a recent video that has been surfaced and was shown on the news of a black man being chased after by police, in which the person running was in fact ran over and killed. Okay, now in Deland, Florida, an officer, his name is James Harris, along with other officers, was in pursuit of a young black man named Marlon Brown. And this is because Brown had decided to take off running because police had made an attempt to pull him over for a traffic violation. I believe it was because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Anyway, it's interesting that in this particular situation, or at least what makes it interesting, is that the other police officers who were also chasing after Brown, they stopped chasing after Brown, but Officer Harris nonetheless continued to speed past those officers, and as a result, he ran Marlon Brown over. Now, what I also found out coincidentally is that a grand jury decided not to indict Officer Harris on any criminal charges, but nonetheless, he was fired. And of course, I'm pretty sure you all heard about the incident last week. This other incident last week, about the young college-age black man. His name is Jonathan Farrell, who was shot 10 times and subsequently was killed by police officer Randall Carrick after the young man had sought help after his car had crashed and then went to a nearby house to get help, but was mistaken for a burglar by this woman who was a resident there. Now, this woman believed that Mr. Farrell tried to break into her home, presumably because this incident took place around 2:30 a.m. on a Saturday night. So, I'm going to leave you all with how you all interpret that situation. And then, of course, there was one of the incidents that gained the most news last week when there was a mass shooting that had taken place at the Washington, D.C. Navy Yard by a black guy by the name of Aaron Alexis. Now, in that incident, Mr. Alexis was someone, by his own account, was a deeply mentally disturbed person who was allowed to have access to a high security environment and in the process, he proceeded to take lives of several innocent people. Now, the reason why I mention his situation is because he was shot and killed on the scene immediately, but another person who is said to have been a mentally disturbed individual who went on a mass shooting rampage, a person by the name of Jared Loeffner. This is a white guy in Arizona whose life was spared by the police when he opened up fire, by which he killed 6 people and he wounded 13 others. And of course, most notably, one of the people that was injured in that incident was a congresswoman named Gabby Giffords, who's since recovered from that. So what is my point in mentioning these situations? Well, from what I am observing and what it seems to me is that unfortunately, black men are continuing to get the short end of the stick when it comes to involvement with the police. Now, I'm pretty sure that incidents that have involved non-black people with the police don't get the coverage in the media, and probably because of a self-serving need to sensationalize such incidents for ratings. But on the other hand, I will say that it is no secret that black men have been historically dealt with in a more harshly capacity by the law, whether it's by the police or the courts. And now I want to say that this is not an attempt, to give black males a pass on any type of errant or outright criminal behavior. And the reason why I say that is because I also uncovered some information that last week in Chicago, 13 people were shot, and I presume to believe that these 13 people, if I'm not mistaken, they were black and they were on the receiving end of some violence. 13 people were shot at in a park in the southwest side, on the city's southwest side. Now, it is also presumed that the perpetrators were black males because police have 2 black males in custody as we speak. Now, of course, these incidents are disturbing to say the least. And I just hope that, if nothing else, me as a black man, I can only hope that black men can stop being on the receiving end of what I can see to be the harshest treatment, by the law because of an image, that is either manufactured by our own doing or by others for self-serving reasons. And I just want to say that hopefully, we can still one day still be just judged individually instead of whenever one black man does something, it represents everybody. And as we all know, everybody is an individual. So therefore, it's a mistake to make that type of general assumption, and then everybody else, falls victim to that general assumption. Because, like, for example, now I'll wrap this up with the situation that I mentioned about the young man who had crashed his car, Jonathan Farrell, when he was mistaken by the woman who thought that he was a burglar. Well, could it be said that he would have been given the benefit of the doubt that he was a white guy? Because when she was talking to 9/11 operators and they asked her to describe the person, banging at her door, of course, she said it was a black man. So the point, like I said, this image that we are suffering from, it's detrimental to all. So without further ado, I want to turn the radio and the controls back over to our famous host here, DJ Nanner. And I want to thank you, Miss Nanner, for allowing for me. Well, actually, this is the Monroe show, so I want to say Miss Monroe. I want to thank you for allowing me to come on today and take control of the wheels again.
All right. With that being said, I do want to thank you for always being willing to come on to the Monroe show and give your 2 cents about any situation. Right quick, we are going to take a little break. I have a couple of commercials here to play, and then we're going to get right back into the topic of the day. So stay tuned. Just one moment.
While cutting molding with a 12-inch dual compound miter saw, while holding a newborn baby in your arms, when face to face with a congregation of alligators, with the ball in your hands and the entire freaking season on the line.
There are a million places you'd never consider texting, so why would you do it while driving? NASCAR driver Casey Kane here, asking you to please stop the text, and together we can stop the wrecks.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. Get the message at stoptextstoprex.org.
The Department of Theater, Dance, and Media Studies, College of Fine Arts and Communication at the University of Missouri St. Louis present the original horror comedy musical Richard O'Brien's The Rocky Horror Show, October 10th through the 13th at the Two Hill Performing Arts Center's Lee Theater. Performance times are October 10th at 7:30 p.m., October 11th, 7:30 p.m., October 12th, 2 p.m. and 7:30 p.m., and October 13th, 2 p.m. Tickets are available via the Two Hill website at www.twohill.org under events or at the Two Hill box office. Tickets are $10 for the public, $5 for students with valid ID. So come out to the Two Hill and do the time warp again. This show contains mature content.
You want your event promoted across campus?
Oh, I love it.
The U is offering PSAs for your student organization.
How do you do it?
Have your event promoted to the entire campus through our station.
That is what they do.
Need more info? Visit www.umslradio.com/PSA.
The opinions expressed on this program are the views of the host and not necessarily the views of the University of Missouri St. Louis or this station.
All right, so we are back after, those commercials. And our topic of the day today was talking about how black men seem to always get the short end of the stick when it comes to dealing with the police, and how, for the most part, that we do, if you do the research, we are the race that suffers more at the hands of the police when it comes to their punishment towards us. And I have my guest here, Bobby G. Stewart, who gave his take on it. And I wanted to, he mentioned something like I just said about how black men do always seem to get the short end of the stick. And, in my mind, my mind went to the fact of race, or the idea of race. And a lot of people who just refuse to believe that race still does exist, and that they just want to believe in their minds that race does not matter to this day here in 2013. I want to say that it does. And for all the people that's in denial, you are in denial. And there's no other way that you can convince me that race does not still play a factor today in 2013. So what I was thinking to myself was, now a lot of people would look at this situation, the two instances that he talked about, the three, but I'm going to talk about the two, with the Marlon Brown, who was yesterday, we seen on the news where he was run over by the police car. And then the incident, Jonathan Farrell, who was shot 10 times, who was actually running out to get help, but instead he was shot dead. And a lot of people look at these situations and be like, oh, it's just a coincidence. There's no race when it comes to white cops and black men. That's just a coincidence that this just happens all the time. No. Let's not be fools here. It's not a coincidence. Race definitely has something to do with it. So I want to ask my guest here, what do you give, like, what is your take on race when it comes to the white cops and the black men? What do you necessarily think that it stems to? For everybody that's listening who may want to be in denial about something, let's give your take on what you feel about where it has come from, so people can understand.
Okay, you can't still hear me. Okay, thank you. Well, if nothing else, let's be clear about one thing. We still live in a country where everything is still centered around race. And just like you said, even though a lot of times, people don't want to make mention of it, because it just seems like, people's reaction usually is a thing of, oh, here we go again. Well, to those that are on the receiving end or that are on the harshest receiving end of the situation, as I had mentioned earlier, it's interesting how those that are not on the receiving end in the harshest capacity, they can just write it off or brush the situation under the rug. And it's easy to do that, when you're not constantly on the receiving end of the harshest treatment. Therefore, because, as you had mentioned, and we all know, just do your research, that the black male in particular, just like black people in general, receive the harshest treatment from the justice system, law enforcement, things of that nature. So now people want to say, well, why is that? And as I had made mention, that it's either manufactured by our own doing, and yes, we do have a hand in it, or manufactured by others for self-serving reasons. And those self-serving reasons, I would like to say, it plays into a larger picture of, if you don't mind me saying, a means of disenfranchisement. Now we're all here at a college campus, so break out your dictionaries and look up what disenfranchisement means. So back to the point of the question that you asked as to why do I think this situation continues to be, and I believe, like I say, it's more than just one particular situation, because like I say, we do have, us black men in the media, for example, our young entertainers, be they either on TV or on the radio, most notably with the rap music, that behavior, the errant behavior and or outright criminal behavior, it has played a role, and make no mistake about it. We have a responsibility, to make sure that, if we want to be respected, we have to display a behavior that indicates worthiness of that respect. And of course, people could say respect. Well, what do you mean by that? And I'm pretty sure we all know what that means. So without anything else to be elaborated on, as far as respect, how you respect and how you promote what you say, what you do, those things have to be taken to serious consideration, because like I say, you won't receive respect from anybody if you don't give it to yourself first. So that's the number one reason that I could say, or the number one thing that I could say that would help in the equation, because if you don't give yourself respect, through your behavior, then you pretty much give license to everyone else, whether it be here in this country or abroad, the license to see us, in the most negative capacity possible. And as a result, the negative treatment that we'll receive will be commensurate with that image that we help to give others when it comes to our treatment. And of course, like I said, the self-serving interests of others. Well, I do know when it comes to that disenfranchisement that I had made mention, there is a company called the Corrections Corporation of America. They invest in prisons for profit. And with that being said, that criminal behavior that, say, for example, they use for their self-serving reasons of trying to make profit off of people that are put in prison, most notably, be it black, brown, and the new, growing inmate population is females. Okay, but nevertheless, in this prisons for profit situation, they've asked, for example, now I'll try to be as short with this as possible, that they have asked, or they have, offered a deal with the neighboring, with all of the state governments, that they will take control over all of the prison system in this country in exchange for a 90% incarceration rate. Now, if these are their purposeful plans, when you say a 90% incarceration rate, well, how do you do that? You know, obviously in cahoots with, you know, lawmakers who, you know, make for unfair sentencing laws, judges who hand out longer prison sentences, things of that nature will help to accomplish that goal of a 90% incarceration rate. And why is this? Well, because in these prisons for profit, these investors have found that goods and services can be offered in prison. Like, for example, customer service situations where you call and make reservations for hotels or car rentals. These things can be done in prison. And of course, the manufacture of, you know, goods that we wear and that we buy, you know, from all of the stores at very low prices. These goods are not manufactured anymore in the Southeastern Asian countries, you know, what would be deemed as sweatshops, you know, where they work for very little money in exchange for their labor. So what has been done is that these prisons for profit individuals, you know, they've managed to utilize the criminal and errant behavior that our black men have unwittingly participated in. So like I say, you know, it's a multifaceted situation to where in which, like I say, I would personally hope that, for starters, us black men, we cannot play into or continue to play into this situation that helps not only to affect us, but it affects everyone else, you know. So that basically is the main thing that I can say in terms of my observation of the situation.
All right, and I totally agree with everything that, you know, you said. I couldn't agree more. You know, one of the things that I wanted to point out that Bobby G. Stewart had said was that we, as, you know, the black community, you know, we get so upset, like, for instance, when we hear about, you know, white on black, you know, crime, or, you know, when white people do black people wrong, and, you know, we say that it's about race, and, you know, 9 times out of 10 it is about race. But at the same time, I feel like we don't say enough about the black on black crime that happens. And it happens every day, just about, you know. And I feel like my guest was saying, you know, you can't expect for other people to respect you if you don't respect yourself and your people first. So, you know, when you have all these killings where these gang members are killing each other over the most stupidest stuff, you know, over stature, or, you know, what material possessions they have, and it's just the dumbest stuff that our community will kill each other over. And I feel like it's ridiculous, because it is ridiculous, and we expect for the other races to respect us, but we don't respect ourselves. And no, I'm not saying that as everybody individually, but I'm saying in general, the black community, how it is with us. Like, the main point being, if we want others to respect us, we need to respect each other. It is not okay to be involved in gangs. It is not okay to promote the killing each other in the music that we listen to, because nowadays that's all the rappers talk about. They talk about being a part of some gang, killing each other. They're talking about money. They talk about clothes. They talk about cars, and that's all they talk about. You hardly ever hear a rapper these days who is trying to bring a positive message to the table, knowing that they are popular among the masses, knowing that a lot of people listen to them, they would rather talk about the stuff that continues to bring our community down rather than talking about something positive. And that's not okay. So with our community, we definitely have to get better with respecting ourselves and each other. We have to realize what's more important in life. Morals and values are more important than life, than material possessions and who got this, who got that, who got more power and who doesn't. Life is about so much more than that. And the gangs and everything is nothing but detrimental to us. And of course you have our great leaders back then, like Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, who would speak on these things, but it seemed like since they've been going slowly, since they've been going, nobody seems to really care about those things, or not enough people seem to care about our community and what's really going on within our community. So with that being said, I want to encourage us as young people, if you know someone who is involved in gang activity and, their mentality is all about, materialism and all that irrelevant and frivolous stuff, do what you can to change their mentality around. If you are the one who is involved in all the frivolous things, and if you are the one involved in a gang, or if you promote that type of mentality, change your ways. Change starts from within, and it's about being a positive influence to the ones around you. You can say, and you can look at all the things that go on TV and say, man, that's messed up. All this black on black crime, like I'm tired of seeing all this black on black crime. You can say that, but at the same time, instead of just saying something, do something. It's okay to say something, but it really matters most when you do something, when you put your words into actions, when you actually be the one who steps up and will be different against the status quo of what's going on. So like I said, the music is the number one thing that, and I'm not gonna lie, I love music. I really do. I love the beats. I'm just a music person, but at the same time, I do not promote the music where all they're talking about is killing each other and clothes and sex and power and money, and that's all they talk about. I don't do that. Why? Because my morals and values are in a different place, and I understand the fact that music does nothing but help to continue to break down our black community. So without that being said, I'm going to ask my guest if he has anything else that he wants to add. If not, we're going to go ahead and get back into the music for this last 20 minutes of my show here. So is there anything else you want to add?
Well, I guess if not, excuse me, I guess if nothing else, that glorification of violence and a self-destructive mentality, is one of the main keys that are being the main, ingredients, for our situation. And of course, nobody